Godzilla King of Monsters is the best kaiju movie of all time. I will not be taking questions at this time. But I'm not going to talk much about the big lizard in this episode because, frankly, I haven't seen many of his movies all the way through. If you want a thorough breakdown of why King of Monsters rules, just go listen to the School of Movies podcast on it. It's insightful and very good. Instead, we are going to talk about a monster that had a lot of trouble leaving Godzilla's shadow, Gamera. I actually cannot recall where I first heard about the big turtle. Most people know about him from Mystery Science Theater 3000's videos that they did on him, but I know that's not where I heard of him. And I thought it was Movie Bob's video on the big turtle, but that timeline doesn't seem to match up at all. Regardless of where I first heard about Gamera, I dove right in and really came away loving the good turtle. So let's talk about him. Gamera the Giant Monster is one of the most blatant Godzilla ripoffs you can imagine. It's in black and white, and Gamera is awoken from the Arctic by misdropped nukes. And this was like 10 years after Godzilla, so it's not like people couldn't tell what you were doing. That said, it's a solid movie. Got a nice zippy pace, and the set piece moments are pretty good considering Gamera doesn't fight another monster in this one. He saves a kid from falling off a lighthouse, and the JSDF gets the idea to blow out a hill from underneath him, knocking Gamera on his back. That's a good idea, and it seems to be working until Gamera does this. So cool! Yes, nowadays, the fact that Gamera spins up like a flaming dreidel of doom is how you sell these movies to people, but can you imagine what it must have been like at the time to see this happen in the first movie? And it's such delightful kid logic. I mean, Gamera breathes fire. Of course he can shoot fire out of the other holes in his shell. Don't worry about where the limbs go. That's not important right now. This is more fun. And the movie concludes with them catching Gamera in a comically big spaceship and launching him into space, never to return again, except he comes back almost immediately because he hit an asteroid. The second movie is, in a lot of ways, an improvement. It's in color, it has another monster for Gamera to fight. Barugon wants to be Baragon so bad it's cute. The Gamera suit is notably awkward even for a kaiju suit, so the fights in this series would almost certainly suck if they relied on straight up brawls, and you can see a bit of that in this one. Oh yes, this sizing up scene is really thrilling. But the Gamera movies compensate by giving the monsters just absolutely wild abilities, just like how Gamera spins up to fly. So Barugon has a giant extendo tongue that shoots out cold air to freeze Gamera after their first fight. She also shoots an honest-to-God rainbow death ray out of her back.
Rainbows.
This is mostly used on the JSDF until they reflect it back at her and she stops using it. Unfortunately, I really didn't like this one. It's almost 2 hours long, which is way too long for this kind of movie, and most of that is the human plot, which is about these guys going into the jungle to find some jewel and then fighting over the money. There's almost as many human punch-ups as there are kaiju fights, and it's really boring. Oh, also racist. Just very, very racist. Boy, isn't it reassuring that colorism is rampant across all the globe? Thanks, colonialism! Okay, so the third movie, Gamera vs. Gauss, is when this series starts getting good.
Gauss is a giant vampire bat thing that eats people. Its design is absolutely silly, but it has a big advantage over Rodan. It shoots lasers out of its mouth! And this laser very specifically has a slicing component, which leads to some great visual gags with a plane and a car. Oh, but it's also good for slicing off Gamera's arm!
Yeah, this is one of the major elements of this series that I love. They are weirdly violent. I don't know how they do this, but they consistently have blood shooting out of the suits somehow, and it also feeds into how the rhythms of these fights more often than not have Gamera losing and then coming back with a clever tactic.
This is also when the movies start leaning into just being straight-up kids' films. Shocking no one, kaiju films are just generally more popular with kids than adults, and the Gamera movies just decided to lean into it. This movie features a kid with a straight-up slingshot who gets to ride on Gamera's back when he flies Superman style. Gauss is also the only monster to make a return appearance in the series. Definitely recommend checking this one out.
So I'm not going to get into the next 5 movies in this series. They take more of a spacey turn at this point in the series, because you know how the 60s love their space race. They also introduce the Gamera song, sung by a children's choir. No, I'm not singing it. After a frankly terrible final movie made mostly of stock footage, the Gamera series took a 15-year hiatus. And it's not like Godzilla was doing great in this time period either, but it was still an active franchise. So when Gamera came back, it came back big.
Gamera, Guardian of the Universe, is just a huge step up in every way. The effects are wildly enhanced, no longer leaning on dudes in suits, but a combination of practical puppets, suits, and early CGI. But even more impressive is the way the storytelling is brought up to the next level. In terms of events, it's fairly standard. Gamera is awakened and defeats a bunch of Gauss monsters. But the way it's told is so much more modern, and the human characters are genuinely engaging. Especially the girl who forms a psychic connection with Gamera to help guide him during the fights. The changed backstory in this is that the Atlanteans made Gauss as a bioweapon, but they went out of control, so they made Gamera to destroy the Gauss.
So I guess Aquaman could technically call in Gamera in his next movie.
I also appreciated how this movie cuts into the military not simply as incapable, but incompetent and making things worse. This unfortunately is not a theme they continued in Gamera 2, Attack of Legion, which is weirdly rah-rah for the JSDF. But I don't really mind, because Legion is a really cool monster. It's an alien hive mind that is trying to terraform Earth and fights Gamera with all kinds of wacky, spiky forms. Great example of how moving away from what can be accomplished by a dude in a suit really adds to the kaiju genre.
Also, I just really love all the female energy in this trilogy. A lot of the main cast are women, and they tend to come back between movies. And yes, this is a trilogy. All 3 movies were directed by Shusuke Kaneko, and they have a strong sense of continuity.
Okay, last movie we are going to talk about today, and it's a doozy. Gamera 3, The Awakening of Iris, is going so hard it deserves to have its own rap song. It introduces a girl whose family was killed by Gamera in one of the previous movies. She bonds with a weird egg tentacle monster she found behind a shrine, and directs it to kill Gamera in revenge. This ominous flashback to her parents getting killed is honestly affecting to watch. Also clearly inspiration for the Wayne Tower flashback in Batman v Superman. You can't hide from me, Zack!
I know your secrets.
I don't know if I can convey how dark this third movie is, but I'll try. A subplot of this movie is a bunch more Gauss spawning in from somewhere and Gamera trying to keep them down. He blasts a few out of the sky over a major city, and the flaming corpses crash down into the Shibuya shopping district at night. He then lands himself, and we are directly shown how his landing crushes people underfoot, which is nothing compared to when he finishes off the Gauss with a gout of flames that engulfs the iconic Hachiko dog statue. Gamera takes another Gauss out over the city, and the large flaming chunks destroy buildings and kill thousands of people. we see a small child tell his parents that Gamera saved his life, and then cut to the district in flames.
Mr. Shishuke, what the hell are you doing? We are almost at full Hideki Anno vibes here, and I do not make that comparison lightly. I am getting a strong sense of the Shin Godzilla movies from this. The original era of Gamera movies are good fun, but they're good for kaiju movies. The 90s trilogy are just straight up good movies, especially in the vein of 90s disaster flicks. Like, it's not exactly easy to sell someone on a kaiju movie if they aren't already into them a little, but this 90s trilogy is just straight up good in a not ironic sense, and you should see them. The latest Gamera movie is the only one I haven't seen because it wasn't on the collection I have. I wanted to get that nice Arrow Videos box set, but it is expensive, and me looking hot is more important than seeing Gamera movies. Sorry, babe.
But I've watched some of it in clips and have been reliably informed that it's got an Amblin Entertainment vibe. Doing a bit of E.T. and the Iron Giant thing with the kids finding a baby turtle, but oh, it can fly. Then it becomes a big monster and has to fight other big monster. Frankly, that's a killer pitch, and I'm surprised this movie didn't do better. I guess people were just too busy being cool and edgy in the mid-2000s to appreciate a straightforward and hopeful kids movie. Would probably go down gangbusters nowadays.
And that's the Gamera franchise. I love this big, goofy, adorable turtle. I love him when he's playing around in a submarine with children. I love him when he's using the metal spines of a fish to play his theme song. I love him when he's on the parallel bars. And I love him when he's a dark, moody deconstruction of the kaiju genre. It's sometimes said that people only get into kaiju movies when they're children, but I didn't discover these movies until my mid-20s. Maybe I'm just an incurable hipster, but I'm really glad I made the effort to get to know this little turtle. And yeah, till next time, I'm Pluto Burns, and this has been Eagleland. Okay, I'll sing the song! Gamera, Gamera, Ikesuzo Gamera, Ikesuzo Gamera, Ikesuzo Gamera. Nichigetsu Kasui, Nichigetsu Kasui, Nikiko Saigeru, Akuma no Niji da, Reto Kaijo Kurosaro Koi, Hanada, Honda, go, go, go! Kaien Fusade, Yatsukero. Ikesuzo Gamera, Ikesuzo Gamera, Ikesuzo Gamera.